Welcome back to the Scale Forward podcast. I'm your host, Russell, and today I'm joined by Keith, the founder of Segmetrics. Segmetrics is a marketing analytics platform that helps digital businesses finally get clarity on what's working and what's not. Keith, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. This is really exciting.
Well, I guess now's a good time to get the background story on Segmetrics. How did you start it? Was there an initial trigger moment? Did you need to track something better than what you already were at the CRO agency? The answer to that is yes, obviously.
Most probably, yeah.
But yeah, give us the origin story, Keith. How'd you get started with Segmetrics?
Yeah, so this started about 10 plus years ago, I guess. The software is 10 years old at this point publicly. But what it started, so we were a CRO agency, a conversion rate optimization agency, and we were working mainly with info product people, coaches, people like Ramit Sethi, Jim Quick, Eben Pagan, those types of large scale direct marketers. And you have to realize that this is 10 plus years ago. So there is no real Google ads. Like it kind of exists, not really. There's no real web tracking beyond like Google Analytics. And I think Kissmetrics was the most top of the line analytics tool at that time, right? And most of our clients were dealing with long-term nurture campaigns. So anyone who doesn't know info products, essentially the idea is you get someone to your site, whether that's affiliate traffic, SEO, whatever, they download some sort of opt-in magnet, like a PDF, a webinar, some sort of thing like that. And then they go through a nurture sequence. They go through about 7 to 14 to sometimes 21 days of emails that are educating them, that are convincing them about the value of you and your product. It's very personality led. And at the end of that 21 days, you want them to buy your product. And then once they buy that product, you want them to buy other products and become a longtime customer, et cetera, et cetera. So the challenge here is that none of this stuff, like the stuff on the emails or the webinars or any of this stuff, happens on the web, right? It's not a click-based thing. And there's no click-based tracking really anyway, so it doesn't matter if it was. So what we would have to do is we would have to take a list of all of our tracking from Kissmetrics. We would have to take a list of all of our tags that were applied throughout the sequence as people do different things, and all the people in the sequence, and then all the products that they buy. And so you have about 7 or 8 different Excel sheets that are about 1 million to 2 million lines long. And then you have to do a pivot table on each of those to understand, well, people who attend the webinar are worth $5 unless they came from this opt-in magnet, then they're worth $12, et cetera, right? So that is the type of work we were doing. And anyone who's dealt with this type of data before knows that this takes about 5 hours to answer any single question. And it's long, it's arduous, it's miserable, but you have to do it. And so after a while, we were like, we're developers, we're tech people. We can just get this data out of an API, and then maybe we could put it in a database and do some stuff ourselves. And that was kind of the beginning of this, as we dumped all that stuff into a database. We did the queries in, I think, like 12 seconds instead of 5 hours. And we showed it to the client. And the client was like, this is great information. I'm like, awesome. And then they'd ask harder questions. And before, we'd have to spend another 5 hours answering those questions because we have to go back to those Excel sheets and everything. And now it's just like one more question into the database, and then we found the answer. And yeah, it really scratched our own itch. And then eventually, as we're showing this in our reporting and showing this to the client's like, oh, can I get access to this data? And so we built a login. And then they're like, hey, my friend who's also doing this kind of stuff, he wants access. Can we set up an account for him? So then we had billing. And then suddenly the SaaS is bigger than the agency. And we're like, well, we like working on this analytics stuff. So we shut down the agency, and now we're on this full time.
Wow, I have a...
Was that long-winded enough?
No. I was doing like the pictures, and then I had like PTSD of the massive spreadsheets that you would spend all the time in.
Miserable.
And then they would freeze, and you're like, oh no.
And did you know there's a limit to how many rows you can have in an Excel doc? I didn't. I do now.
Is there still?
I don't know if there still is. There was, I think it was like 5 million rows or something. Like there's an absolute limit that you can hit when you're doing that much data. So
okay, that's fine. That's funny. Was it a specific metric that you were trying to? Can you remember what that metric was that you were trying to track?
Yeah, there's 2. There's lead value, which is probably the top KPI of any sort of digital online marketing, is your lead value, right? So number of people that come in, how much are they worth on average, right? So that's the number 1. And then the number 2 is lifetime value, which is kind of the same, but it's how long does it take and how much money can you expect to get out of a person over a long period of time rather than a short period of time.
Right. I mean, it's true, right? Like a number of, individuals and agencies, we spend so much money on these ads, emails, webinars, but oftentimes we still struggle to answer what's our best acquisition channel, what's our biggest ROI driver. Why is it without Segmetrics? Why is it still such a hard challenge or question to solve in 2025?
There's a lot of reasons. There's a technical reason and then there's a non-technical reason. Let's start with the technical reason. So the technical reason is that everyone thinks, even especially in e-com, people are like, people see an ad and they buy a product. And that just doesn't happen. That never happens. Even in e-com, we've done a lot of studies with that. And 14 days is the average in e-com for someone to look to an ad for the first time to buy, right? So there are no, hey, I saw an ad and I bought. And the ad platforms now, because of privacy and iOS stuff and all that, have a 7-day window on their attribution. So that means that you have 7 days from ad to purchase that you can actually attribute someone. And after that, you're not going to be able to attribute them anymore. And that gets even worse when, if you're talking about info products and stuff like that, you have someone that has a long nurture sequence. You have things that are happening offline. So as we were saying, recurring payments, anything that is purchased in a sales call or anything like that, that's not a click to purchase, is never getting tied back. And so there's a lot of technical issues around that. So those are the technical issues that prevent that. And then the other one is more of a marketing thing, which is there are so many things to look at that people get overwhelmed by what they are actually looking for to improve the marketing. And so it's very easy to say, I spent $5,000 this week on ads, got 5,000 new leads. Each lead cost me $1. I made $10,000. Each lead was worth $2 and I got ROAS. Cool. Great number. Awesome. But they're top of line numbers that aren't going to tell you anything, right? So how much did it cost you to get someone to attend your webinar? How much were you able to make from a webinar? Because just like, and I'm going to show my age, back in the old days, before there were ads and you were doing all this ROAS stuff, you had your top line conversion rate for your website. How many visitors did you have in a month and how many people opted in and then how many people purchased? And that's still just a top line number, same as your ads, right? It's not telling you anything to do anything, right? You need to know things like how many people came to the opt-in page, opted in, and then purchased. And I need to that conversion rate. I need to know the conversion rate of the webinar sequence that's further down in my nurture sequence. And so when you're trying to tie this back to an ad that is a black box until it gets to your site and then has to go down the funnel, it gets so much harder to track it. And that's kind of the pain point that we've always tried to look at because we are info product based. We started in info products and funnel hacking and that kind of stuff. And that's where we focus on, which is those touch points in your marketing, tying that back to where they came from with the ad, and then tying that back to the revenue at the end to give you people who attend the webinar are worth X. People who get on a sales call are worth Y, etc.
Right. And what does that look like inside of Segmetrics? Is it fancy graphs? Am I buried in data? Is it overwhelming? How have you simplified that for the average user?
Yeah, I think so. The main thing that we look at, so it's a lot of fancy graphs. We've been working for years trying to make it very simple to see. One of the biggest, and it's the small things. It's really the small things. One of the biggest things is we always talk about outliers, right? So we were talking about number of people on your website to number of leads is probably going to be about 1 to 1.5%, right? But there are certain pages and certain opt-in magnets and certain lead sources and certain traffic sources and certain types of people that convert much better or much worse. And so one of the simple things we've done is when you have a list of all your pages like you have on like Google Analytics or something like that, and you're just looking at it, it's like, oh my God, so many numbers. Like, what am I even looking at? We have a simple thing where it's just showing the percentage of conversion for each of those for whatever number you're looking at. So you're looking at all your pages and where everyone's coming from and all this stuff. And you're like, and then you see this one giant line going across where all the other ones are like this. You're like, that's where everyone's converting because everyone's touching that page is converting. And then you filter it by something else. You're like, okay, how about traffic sources? And you see, okay, Facebook is this huge line where everything else is like this. Oh, it's Facebook that's doing so good. Or you see the opposite where it's like, you see all these lines really good and you see this one tiny little thing. It's like Twitter's sending me nothing. I should stop focusing hours on Twitter because they're worthless to my business, right? So it's being able to quickly see what is an outlier. And this is one of the things I always get into, which is that those top line metrics are great to understand how the business is going, but they're not going to tell you anything. And it's as soon as you start looking at those outliers and start seeing what's doing great and what's not, that you can start seeing, oh, I need to do more of this. I need to do less of this.
Yeah, rather than just flying blind, which quite
Flying
often
blind or
we
fly.
kind of are. And then we start blaming the platform. The ad platform's no good,
I
or I
mean,
just need more leads, or I need more better attribution tracking. What do you see in funnel hacking in your space is likely the most underperforming metric, or something that people, I guess it's a two-part question. What's usually, depending on the person and the circumstance, the most underperforming funnel, and why do you think they weren't able to track that or identify that earlier?
oh, that's a good one. I would say I have a couple of answers to that. So I'm going to say the first thing, which I think I won't say underperforming, but I'll say the thing where people leave money on the table the most is post-purchase upsells. And I especially see this in e-com. I see this in info products. Once someone buys a product from you, offer them a related product after the purchase. It is literally free money. Because then people are like, oh, I don't want to try to push too much. They've already bought. They're not going to take back that purchase. Like they're done. The only thing you're doing is offering something more that can increase your revenue even more. So post-purchase upsells, anything that after that first purchase you can get additional revenue off of, by all means, free money, definitely do it. But I think that where we're looking at people not focusing and what do they, I think people, for myself included, I think that we all get very enamored with the shiny, right? So now a lot of people are doing, now that AI has made it very easy to do cold outreach, especially with email, just constantly bombarding with cold email, right? We're constantly sending out all these ads and stuff. And now ads are becoming more and more AI driven. Google just released this thing where it's all AI ads. So they used to have the P Max, now they have AI Max, and they're really pushing towards just pay us money and then we're going to get you customers. We promise. Heard that one before. Anyway, so but I think that going back to the foundations of what digital marketing and direct marketing was 10 years ago, I think is still a very solid thing to look at. And even before 10 years ago, where it's relationship based. So affiliates, cross promotions, that kind of stuff, and then nurture based. And what I mean by nurture based is the old school, hey, I have an opt-in magnet or some sort of webinar or something that gets people in the door, and then I nurture them through emails. And also this is where I kind of grew up in that marketing world, is in this kind of stuff. So I do have a soft spot for it, but I'm seeing more and more of it kind of all got eaten away by ads because we could just pay money for leads. And that well is kind of drying up at this point. And so there's so much AI creating ads. There's so much AI managing ads. And even the ad platforms are trying to use AI to just say, pay us money, like I just said. And it's like, I think it's a race to the bottom. And whenever, in marketing especially, whenever everyone is doing one thing, you want to do something else. So the common phrase is when everyone zigs, you want to zag, right? And so everyone's going all into this advertising right now. And there's this whole empty space of nurture, of relationships, of curation that I think is still a very lucrative area. People have been saying for 20 plus years, email is dead. And you talk to any direct marketer and you're like, would you rather lose every single dollar in your bank account or lose your entire list? And every single one says all the money in my bank account. Because as long as I have my list, I can make it back. And it's true. It's true. And so I feel that's where people are coming back to now, hopefully, because I think that we've kind of lost our way with all of the, we can just pay Google for leads.
Yeah, I mean, speaking from my own personal experience and dealing with clients, I mean, email's still kicking goals, always has been. And I think for, not going to say always will, but for quite some time into the future, will continue to kick goals. I was going to say something about the AG1. So I was watching Sabri Subi. I don't know if you know him, the Aussie marketer. He's quite well known. Mm-hmm. He did a full breakdown of their funnel and their upsell at the end of their cart. And that just reminded me of it because they don't even advertise these products on their website. When you land on it and you're in the cart, magically there's these new products that you've never really seen about on their website in the cart or ready to go. Just a click of a button. And it's beautiful. And the whole point around that is you might have 10, 5, 15, 50, 100 products or whatever it is, but identifying the one that is your best seller that drives 80% of your revenue, you can actually just optimize your whole entire website around that one product. And then in the cart, do the upsell. And so is that something that Segmetrics could help identify which, I mean, you should already know with other stuff as well, but it's nice to have it all in one tool. Which product is selling the most? So I can then build a new landing page, test landing pages around that product. Let's say if I was an e-com store.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things that we do is even we call it the product orbit. And that is a combination of what product do people buy first and what do they buy next? And how long does that take to buy? And so when you're looking at things like upsells and stuff, you want to find products that have synergy together. And so looking at something like a product orbit, you're able to see, okay, people who buy this product, 99% of them are also buying this product. And so, okay, that's a perfect pairing to do as that upsell or even a pre-sell, and then you upsell something else after that. And you can see uptake and stuff. There's some really cool things you can do because people always think about upsells as needing to be cheaper, right? So you buy a $50 product, $100 product, and then the upsells maybe $20, $30, right? Just a little bit extra. But we've actually seen success when the upsell is like 5 times or 10 times the price of the original purchase. The number of people buying is not high, but just the fact that it's $1,000 upsell, you don't need many people to buy it to be successful with it. So that was always one of my, talking about how do products fit together and like what's the thing. Whenever I'm testing this type of stuff, I'm always adding something in that I think is just bat crap insane. Like just absolutely like this will never work, because sometimes it does. And then you're like, holy crap, we just unlocked this whole new way that we can market and sell our products.
Yeah. It's one of the, I can't remember where I read it. It's just keep putting your prices up until people say no. And, you've got to be in a bit of a luxury position to do so. Let's say you have an abundance of work coming in, you have this job that you don't really want to do. Let's say you're a plumber. Instead of $150 fix, you just ask, it's going to be $900. They say yes. It's kind of worth it, right? Because or something like that. Just test it. What does, I guess we could speak of your CRO background as well. I see a lot of people pour money into tactics without the right pieces in place. Once you've identified this and you don't want to keep pouring kerosene on the fire, how would you go about patching up these holes or leaks in the pipes, let's say?
Yeah. So the main way I do it is I just lay everything out. So I'll do it on paper or on Lucid Chart or something like that. And I'll just put each step that I see in the funnel. And then I'll use Segmetrics or a similar system to just put numbers in there. And I get a line for my funnel, and maybe it has branches and stuff, but essentially I have a line of how many people come in, how many people get to the end, and the conversion rate at each step. And what I'm doing there is I'm looking for holes. I'm looking for big places that the numbers, people are not carrying on from one step to the next. And as soon as I identify that hole, I'm going to go there and then I'm going to start breaking it down. I'm going to break it down by industry, by traffic source, whether like cats or dogs, like anything that for my business is important. One of the examples I always give is doing webinars. Let's say you have a webinar for freelancers and you have developers, you have designers, you have copywriters coming into it. Some of them are going to convert better than others. So let's say designers convert at like 60%, developers convert at like 50%, copywriters convert at like 2%. So now you have a decision to make, right? So if you just look at that average for webinar conversion rate, you have a conversion rate is like good or bad, whatever. But as soon as you see that 2 compared to the 50 and the 60, you're like, okay, do I need to create a new webinar for copywriters? Am I insulting copywriters on the webinar? Like what is the thing here that I can start to optimize to improve the conversion rate for that subgroup? And that's really what you do is you just look at that line, each step, pick a step that has a hole, start breaking it down, find an outlier, fix that outlier, and then go to the next hole. We had at Segmetrics for our opt-in from, traffic to the sign-up page to actual trial was a really great number. And we were looking at, okay, number of people on the sign-up page and the number of people who put in their credit card and the number of people who get to that, who start that trial and the number of people who continue on. And we had great numbers. And we're like, well, what's the problem? It's just getting people to that top of funnel. So then we started reworking how we're getting people to that sign up page, different ways to bring them in, getting people more interested in it. So there's always going to be a hole in your funnel, whether it's the beginning or the end or somewhere in between. And then you just start finding those holes and iterating on how can you improve and tweak for the people looking at it. And here's one of the things that you really learn when you do a lot of conversion rate optimization is that I think as marketers, we always want to go back to the numbers, and it's like, oh, I have a 42% conversion rate and blah, blah, blah. And like, I'm always thinking about the numbers, but what marketing is like applied psychology, right? Everyone who is looking at your page is a person who has a goal. And when you get too much into the numbers, you start forgetting that. And you look at things like your ROAS and everything, and you're looking at everything at a macro level when you really have to think, how are people reacting to this ad or to this page or to this piece of my stuff? What are they thinking when they get there? And how am I addressing their concerns in a way that brings them closer to the end goal of becoming a customer?
It's a good, really good insights. When was the last time you audited your own funnel? and did it, what?
Last week.
Okay.
All the time. The time.
Okay. What did you identify as a hole in the funnel?
I was so angry.
Yes.
So we were doing retargeting ads through Facebook. We've never had good luck with Facebook. We're probably going to, we tore it all down. We're going to restart again soon, but we've never had real good luck with Facebook, but we were just having miserable luck with Facebook, just really bad conversions. Like it just felt like a waste of money. And I don't manage ads day to day. I'm looking at the numbers. I'm helping the ad team kind of build all the stuff. And so I went in and was looking at some of the ads that had been long runners, right? And they were retargeting ads for anyone who'd come to our website. And this is just one campaign we were running, but it was the one that pissed me off. And I look at the ads that are actually running, and they're all super specific for specific integrations. They are like, hey, connect Segmetrics to ConvertKit, or hey, connect Segmetrics to ClickFunnels. But they were generic retargeting ads. They weren't from people who visited those integration pages, which is why we had built them. They were just, there was a setting that was wrong, and they were showing to everyone. And I just exploded inside a little bit. But if you don't go in and look at those holes, you're never going to see them, because the numbers are fine, whatever. They're good, they're bad. They're not telling you anything. You have to dive in. You have to start looking at this. We had one customer who had a funnel set up, and everyone, it had horrible conversion rate, but it had good uptick. It was a very weird funnel. And we were looking at it with him, and we were like, everyone's stopping at day 3. No one gets past day 3. What is going on? And we looked, and there was a bug in his funnel. He had disconnected it and never clicked publish or something. And so all these people were just stuck at day 3. No one ever went to the sales page. It was just a miracle that anyone actually got to the sales page later through some other funnel or something like that. But he had his funnel. He had 30,000 people stuck in step 3 that had never gone on. It hurts. It hurts. But
yeah,
if you're not looking at this, if you just look at the top and the bottom, you're like, the funnel's not doing well. But why not? Oh, you have this giant drop off of engaged, 0. That's probably where you have the problem. So
that's surprising, actually. And it's a good way to think about it, because a lot of people would look at the top line and be like, well, Facebook's just not a performer for us. So we might put that aside and shelf that for the next 6 months and try another channel. We might go Google, we might go TikTok, we might do something else. Whereas you do what you did. And are you able to update how it's performing now, or we too early?
We just trashed it a couple of weeks ago. So it's we are starting a skunkworks program. So we are bringing in a small amount of ad spend, a couple $100 to $1,000, to try out new stuff. And just, we're talking about crazy stuff. So I have some really weird ads that I want to try running on Reddit and Facebook, and some weird stuff I want to do on LinkedIn. It's just, I don't think any of them are going to super succeed, but I'd like to start seeing if anything hits, so that I can then say, hey, ad team, by the way, look at what we were able to do with this crazy little skunk work thing. Is this something we could build into the overarching thing? Because they're great at managing ads and like getting that spend and the keyword targeting. But I always think and you don't really want to mess with that too much, because you can ruin your ad so quick. Like if you just edit what's working. And so just having a little skunkworks thing is always useful, I feel.
I bet you one of them perform. It's always the ones you think that, or when you just go, I really don't care, I just want to try it. And then those ones usually seem to always hit. Can we dive into the business side of things a little bit more?
Yeah, let's do it.
Over at Segmetrics. Can you run us through your current size of your team? Are they remote? Are you bootstrapped?
Yeah, fully bootstrapped. We did 1 year with Tiny Seed, which is an accelerator for bootstrap companies. So it's a modicum amount of money, but the benefit is the accelerator that you go through, the mentorship, and just working with that and having that community because we are fully remote. We have one other person in Oregon where I live, and then everyone else is throughout the US. And we have a developer in Japan. We're about 10 people strong at this point, trying to stay small, trying to stay lean, and fully profitable at this point, and just trying to build and grow with a small team that's very passionate about what we do. It
You
comes with challenges, though, being remote.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What are some of those challenges? I mean, I'll get back to my other question, but what are
I
some of
think
those? Break that down for us.
Yeah, I think two of the biggest challenges you have being remote is, and I'm not like everyone needs to be in office all the time because that's miserable too, but like there is hey, we want to plan this out. Everyone gets around the whiteboard kind of thing that's always very useful. There's something about communication in person that I think you lose a little bit online. I think Zoom and Zoom whiteboards, we've done very well without it, but it's still useful. And then the second one is it is sometimes difficult to keep urgency up when everyone is on different time zones, because you're like, oh, let's get in a huddle. This guy's out because it's 6 o'clock his time, but it's still middle of the afternoon for me, or Scott's not coming on till this time, or like, and it's like we communicate in Slack and then he's on a client call, so he'll get back to me. It's just, there's a lot more async communication, and we're trying to make things more synchronous where, yes, we have the async, but it's like, hey, let's jump on a call, because it's amazing what you can get done on a 10-minute call versus a hour-long back and forth as you're doing other things on Slack, right? So it is a continuing thing to keep everyone on the same footing, but it's a good challenge. And I think especially with the type of business that we run, it's more important for people to have that balance of, I'm going to be out for 3 hours in the afternoon, but I'm coming back in the evening because that's how I like to work, and like to have your own flow that works well with you, instead of, oh, I'm going to sit in traffic for 2.5 hours because I have to go into the office or whatever that is.
Yeah, those days are kind of gone, aren't they? I remember my old man having to do that for like 15 years, day in,
I did
day
for
out traffic.
6 or 7, hour and a half out, hour and a half back on the train. At least it was the train, so it wasn't driving. But yeah,
Yeah, but that's time we could be stroking keyboards and getting something done, in these just clicking buttons and get moving the needle. So how did you go about picking the right team?
kind of fell into it, to be honest. Most of the team is through recommendations or people I've worked with throughout the years. So I've been doing this 16, 17 years or so as like the agency, and then was doing another 6 or 7 before that at the day job. But so like, for example, my head of content strategy is the head of content strategy for Ramit Sethi. So he left working with Ramit, and I've known him for 15 years, and we started working together. My head of product strategy was my head of product strategy at the agency. A woman that was running Evan Pagan's Double Your Dating, one of his original products, they shut that down, and she came to work for me. And that's one of the things I enjoy about the company, is that all of us are digital marketers or in this world, and we absolutely love it. And we love solving those problems. So it's like, you go to talk with support on some of these other companies, and like, especially Google Ads account managers are the worst, but it's like they have no idea what's going on. They're just there to sell you more product or to give you frontline support stuff. We're all marketers. We've been doing digital marketing for, all of us, 20 years each, 20 plus years. Like, it's in our blood, and it's what we love doing. And so I think it really, you ask the question, when was the last time you looked at your funnel? Every damn week. We look at it all the time. We're always looking at it. We're always trying to improve it. And that's the whole team. It's not just the marketing team, because we're all marketers and even the developers.
Can't
and
help
that's, you can't help it. You can't help it. You want to make it the best for yourself and all your customers.
What are some of the biggest bottlenecks that are getting identified at the moment from yourself and the team within the business?
From our kind of marketing bottlenecks, or
For marketing and growth?
ads are starting to suck. I'm not going to lie. Like, they are quickly going downhill. And it seems, I mean, looking at what our customers are doing, looking at the industry and talking to everyone, like, it seems to be a general thing that especially Google ads are on this weird precipice of people are starting to not use search as much. People use AI for search, which means that people are using Google Ads less, and there are new places to be finding these people. And so we had our leadership call today, and one of the people on our team was just like, what if we just turned off ads? What if we just turned them all off? And I was like, I don't know. We turned off branded ads a few months ago. So we were running branded ads for Segmetrics. When you search for Segmetrics, the ad came up on top, and we were spending about $8,000 a month on branded ads. And I said, let's turn them off. I don't believe in them. I think they're crap. Turn them off. And everyone was like, no, don't do it. And I said, turn them off. And we turned them off. No drop at all, because we have really good SEO. And so we have really good SEO. And so, I mean, you need to keep an eye on it in case someone's bidding against your keyword, but none of our the branded search just turned off, and we kept the same amount of leads and trials and traffic and everything. And so I was like, okay, well, that one wasn't necessary.
Extra in the bank every year.
Yeah, just kind of like, and so, yeah, I think that's the biggest change / bottleneck that's happening right now, I think, is like, what is ads going to do? We had 10 demos last week where people came in from ChatGPT. They said that they first heard about us from ChatGPT.
So let's break that down, because that was actually what I was going to bring up. Because if ads aren't performing well, and you talk to a lot of other people, SEO isn't going crash hot either, because Google seems to be doing away with that. I actually don't really know what Google's doing. Are they purposely underperforming on SEO so you spend more money on ads, but then ads don't work, so then do you go back to SEO? So where do we live? And so I was having this conversation last night on, are we starting to think about how we show up in ChatGPT or Claude or AI for search? And they can't, no, we're not. So, and how do we do that? And that's a good question, right? How do we do that? So do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's a couple of companies. I think Ahrefs is starting to do it now, but one of my friends runs a company called Noatoa, which is such a hard name to Google. But anyways, Noatoa. And that's what they do. They do search engine ranking for AI. And so they're not improving it, but they're showing how you show up in each of the AIs, each of the different models, based on different keywords and based on different queries and stuff like that. And then they give you recommendations on how you can improve that. And one of the things, interestingly enough, that we have found out talking with them and other companies is that listicles are actually a really good way to rank high in AI. And the reason is because when people are searching for something, they're like, what are the top 5 marketing analytics engines I should use in 2025, right? And what the AI engines have done is just scrape all of the internet and run an AI over it. Then, so if you have 30, 40 articles on different sites, all these sites linking to each other, blah, blah, that have listicles of the top marketing platforms in 2025, AI is just going to use that as its knowledge base and just kind of spit that out. And so it's ironic that what we considered really important SEO, but really shitty SEO, which like those listicles and stuff, are now kind of the highlight of
it's like
what is good for AI.
Rubbing their hands together again.
I know, right? Yeah. And it's interesting because I don't think the AIs understand, Google has their weighted algorithm for how pages interact and stuff. I don't think the AI has any of that. So do they know what's good advice versus bad advice? And no one knows, right? But this is where we're kind of going into, where we're going to see that different ways that your site is crawled by the AI is going to influence those results. And it's going to be very much like SEO, except it's not as deterministic as SEO, because the AI are these neural nets that are not deterministic in their responses.
I was going to say, until they put a paywall behind the rankings on who shows up, and then you start bidding.
Google already has a patent on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like LLMs had been out for I think 6 months, and they put a patent on how to do ads inside LLMs. I'm like, LLMs are just now getting to be useful, and it's like, we ruin search. Let's ruin AI.
Yes.
Google.
Yeah.
I'm going to get Google banned after this interview.
That's what I'm thinking, actually. By some chance, someone watches it, because I have seen stories of people like, actually, I won't drop names, but people in SEO who have kind of dumped on Google and shown how they've published 8,000 articles in 2 minutes,
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating. And then lo and behold, their website's gone that week off the face of the planet
There's
because someone
a
picked it up.
there's a very famous Englishman who is very famous in the SEO circles, and he got on a call with Google Ads. This is probably 14, 13 years ago that he was telling me this story. But he got on with them because, he's running all these ads and all this SEO for all these big companies and stuff. And he gets on a call with one of the higher level support people, and they're talking, and then he says, "Oh, I need to put you on hold." He comes back, he says, "I've been informed that I'm no longer allowed to talk to you."
There's no way. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
Who? By
Google
who?
knows about us. Huh?
Yeah, like who informs that? Anyways.
Yeah.
Should we just say it just for the algorithm that we love Google, just in case?
We love Google. Google is the master, much like our AI overlords.
Keith, before we
Yes.
wrap up, let's do a lightning round, if you don't mind. I'll fire off some questions to you. You try and answer them directly or as short as possible, if you're cool with that.
Short answers from me.
Yes.
I will try my best.
It's like a speed round, right? To wrap this up. Don't overthink it.
Right.
What's your favorite growth channel right now?
Integrations and communities. Partnerships.
Okay, I'll allow you to explain on that a little bit more.
I feel there's so much crap out there. Curation is I still feel the strongest trust signal for products. And so building relationships with other promoters, other affiliates, partners, and communities is the best way to get your product to have trust built in.
What's the most overrated SaaS metric?
SaaS metric. MRR.
Why?
It's a number that shows how the business is doing, but it's not telling you anything. Does that mean that you have new customers coming in? Does it mean you're not losing customers? Are you getting lots of new customers, but not losing anything? It's
fair enough.
It's so uninformative other than how much money do I have in the bank?
Okay. You can take your time on this one. If you can recall, one of the most useful insights that Segmetrics ever uncovered?
Man,
either for
funnel
yourself or for a case study.
Yeah, I'll give two. The funnel, the one that I mentioned where the funnel was broken was a huge one because he had no idea. The other one is we found out that we had conversion rate by industry was the biggest thing that we found for ourselves. During COVID, we had a huge boom in e-com people, lots of drop shippers coming in, and 90% of them, and so we changed our strategy to follow ecom, and 90% of them were crap customers. They churned after 6 weeks because they're used to drop shippers. They're not looking at the numbers, blah, blah, blah. They thought they needed us and didn't. So definitely breaking down churn rate and acquisition and retention by industry has been huge for us.
What's something that you're looking to automate this year with AI? And what's one thing you think every founder should at least automate with AI?
For our customers, we're looking to automate asking questions. So I still believe that AI is a huge benefit in asking better questions and understanding things better because it helps you think, because it's often wrong, and correcting someone. It's like when someone's wrong on the internet and you have to correct them. Having AI be wrong and to help you think through things makes you think through things better. And then we're putting that together into reporting as a way for people to ask better questions about how their business is doing based on that data. And I think that's the way I use AI mostly, which is I need to help think through this problem that I'm having. It may be a code problem, maybe a design problem, maybe a marketing problem. Just vomit stuff at me. Come on, AI, just tell me everything and I'll tell you why you're wrong. So
last question. What's a piece of advice or a sentence or paragraph that you'd give a founder who is feeling overwhelmed by the data, like you just said?
Yeah, break it down, start small. The number one problem we see, especially new people at Segmetrics do, is they get very excited and then they're like, I'm going to redo all my funnels to track everything. And it sounds really easy, but that's a lot of work and you don't know if you're doing it right. The first time you do anything, you don't know what it is you don't know. And I try to do this whenever I'm starting a new project. I tell every single customer at Segmetrics when they get excited and want to redo everything, start with one funnel, start with one traffic source, start with one thing and optimize the crap out of that. And then use that as the blueprint for the next thing. Don't try to do everything at once. Try to set up your perfect funnel, your perfect whatever, optimize that, and then go on to the next one. Back to the agency, all the clients we worked with that were very successful had one thing that they just optimized the crap out of. It was the people who were all over the place doing 800 different things that really had trouble getting traction because they didn't work on any one thing enough to get them across the line.
It's also good advice for agency owners as well, is one customer, one product, one channel, acquisition channel. Rinse and repeat. So
exactly.
It's not a bad starting point. Keith, this has been really exciting, packed with insights. I learned a lot. Thanks again for coming on. For folks
Definitely,
who
thanks for
want
having
to
me.
yeah, you're more than welcome. For folks or for people who want to learn more about Segmetrics, just go to Segmetrics website. Are you able to tell us where they can connect with you on LinkedIn? Do you have any events coming up?
Yeah. Keith Perhac on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook and everything. And then we will be at Craft and Commerce next month in Boise, Idaho, which is Kit's conference. So we're doing a workshop there on optimizing funnels. And so if you are in the area or want to come by, definitely come by and say hi.
I'll link those in the show notes below. Once again, Keith, it's been fantastic. This has been the Scale Forward podcast. See you on the next episode.
Thanks so much.